The darkness around me was suffocating. I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't awake either. My body felt heavy, paralyzed. As I lay there on my bed, staring at the shadows dancing on the walls, I had no idea my life was about to change forever. Suddenly, a force pulled me, not just physically, but it felt like my soul was being dragged down. Down through the floor, down into an abyss so dark, so cold, it chilled me to the core. When I finally landed, I found myself in a cave. The air was thick, the ground alive, almost breathing beneath my feet. Water dripped somewhere in the distance, the sound hollow and menacing. Ahead of me, a dim, eerie light began to glow, and as it grew closer, I realized I was no longer alone. It was him. There's no mistaking when you're in the presence of Jesus. He didn't need to speak. I just knew. His light, warm and all-encompassing, was a stark contrast to the darkness around us. He reached out his hand toward me. "Take my hand," he said, his voice both commanding and gentle, resonating inside me like a melody I'd forgotten I knew. For a moment, I hesitated. How could I take his hand after all I had done? How could he want me after I had cursed his name, rejected him, mocked him? But something deeper than my doubt pulled me toward him, and I reached out, taking his hand. As soon as I did, everything shifted. The cave grew darker around us, but the light emanating from him became brighter. It wasn't just light, it was love. Love so powerful that it wrapped around me, shielding me from the oppressive shadows that clawed at my spirit. "Come with me," he said. "There's something you need to see." I followed him, every step illuminated by his light. Without it, I knew I would be swallowed by the darkness. The ground beneath us felt like it was alive, shifting and writhing as if in agony. My breathing grew shallow, the oppressive heat making every step more difficult. Then I saw her. A woman lay bound, her arms and legs stretched in ways that seemed impossible, her body trembling as she screamed in anguish. Her cries weren't just sounds. They were despair made audible, cutting through me like a knife. She was being tormented by creatures I can't fully describe. Small, grotesque beings with eyes like burning coals and weapons sharper than any blade I'd seen. They tore at her flesh, slicing and stabbing, yet she didn't die. Her body would heal, only for the torment to begin again. Above her, the cave wall twisted and warped. A face emerged, grotesque, grinning, and demonic. Its eyes burned with malice as it watched her suffering, its tongue, sharp as a razor, slicing through her body like butter. Yet, she remained alive, trapped in an endless cycle of agony. "Why are you showing me this?" I whispered, my voice barely audible over her screams. "She was like you," Jesus said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "She chose the path you are on now. If you continue, this will be your fate." I couldn't look away. My heart pounded as I realized the truth of his words. This wasn't just some random soul. This was a warning, a glimpse into the eternity I was barreling toward. And then I saw it, a spot darker than the rest of the cave, empty yet waiting. "That's for you," he said. "If you don't turn back, this is where you will be." I felt my knees buckle beneath me. The weight of my sins, the choices I'd made, the darkness I'd embraced, they crushed me. Tears streamed down my face as I fell to the ground, shaking. "Please," I cried out. "Please, I don't want this. I don't want to end up here." And then, I was back. I shot up in bed, gasping for air, my body drenched in sweat. My heart was racing as if I had run a marathon. The room was silent, but the memory of the screams still echoed in my ears. I looked around, half expecting to see the cave or the tormented woman, but it was just me in my room, or so I thought. I felt a hand on my shoulder, heavy, warm, and terrifying. I turned, expecting to see Lucifer, the one I had pledged myself to, the one I had been preparing to marry. He had promised me power, love, revenge against those who had hurt me. But instead of comfort, his presence brought a cold dread that I couldn't ignore. Before he could speak, the room filled with light. It wasn't like the light from a lamp or the sun. This was divine, pure, and overwhelming. It poured into every corner, chasing away the shadows, the lies, the pain. For angels appeared, towering and mighty. Their faces were stern, their armor gleaming as they took their positions in the corners of my room. They weren't here to comfort me. They were here to protect me. Lucifer recoiled, retreating to the far corner of the room. His confident smirk faltered as one of the angels stepped forward. And then, the air shifted again. A presence entered that was so powerful, so magnificent, I fell to my knees. It was God. I can't describe his appearance, but I felt him. His love, his mercy, his grace. It was like a flood, washing over me, cleansing me. "You are still my child," he said, his voice resonating with authority and tenderness. "I still love you. I forgive you." At that moment, every wall I had built around my heart crumbled. I sobbed, overwhelmed by the weight of his love. It wasn't just love, it was redemption, a chance to start over, to leave behind the darkness that had consumed me. "I'm sorry," I whispered through my tears. "I'm so sorry." One of the angels stepped forward and touched my face. As he did, I saw my life flash before me. Not just the pain, but the moments where God had been there, protecting me, guiding me, even when I didn't see it. I saw the angel who had comforted me as a child, the times I should have died but didn't, the people he had sent to warn me. When the vision ended, the angels remained. They stood guard over me as I tore down every altar, destroyed every symbol of my past. I cut up the dress I had prepared for my wedding to Lucifer, shattered the jewelry he had chosen, and threw it all away. It wasn't easy, but I felt the weight lifting with every step. In the days that followed, I began to rebuild, not just my life, but my faith. I reached out to people who could guide me, prayed for strength, and surrounded myself with love and light. The road hasn't been easy, but I know this: God's love is relentless. No matter how far you've strayed, no matter what you've done, He will fight for you. He fought for me when I didn't deserve it, and He'll fight for you too. Because His love isn't just a promise, it's a reality, one that can pull you out of the deepest darkness and into the light of salvation.